Hey, looks like some people showing up. Yo, if you're in the chat room, say hey so I can make sure my audio is okay. Thanks for popping in. I gotta tell you, didn't think live streaming was going to happen tonight. Really didn't. I've only been home about, I don't know, maybe almost an hour, something like that. Been on the road. But if you hear me okay, let me know in the chat. My lighting, not sure what's going on with my lighting, but it looks really, really hot. I gotta figure that out. Not digging that. Okay, Mr. Joshua Rice says audio is okay. Sweet. And that lighting looks a little bit better. Still not great, but it's a little bit better. Joshua, thank you very much, sir. Appreciate you. Thanks for hopping in. Looks like some more people are popping in here. I first off, hello. Thanks for coming in. I'm Aunt Pruitt, and it's Friday night. And I like to do a little bit of live streaming on Friday nights and go through some type of topic, if you will, regarding the world of content creation, leaning more towards photography and videography. I may do some motion graphic stuff one day. I don't know. We'll see. There's fuzz on my camera. Let's clean that off. But anyway, thank you. Thank you for popping in. I'm Aunt Pruitt. And tonight I decided on taking a look at a subject matter that we didn't look at in the last live stream, because the last live stream we talked about viewer's choice. We decided to make it a viewer's choice, and the people in the chat room voted on two different topics. So this time I'm going to go with the topic that didn't win last week. And that happens to be stock videos, stock photography, stock content in general from the world of a creative artist. So I'm going to go through and walk you through my thought process when I'm going through creating stock content. And hopefully it'll be something that can help you all out as creative artists and help you get a little bit of passive income every month, you know. So let's go ahead and get rolling here. I'm not going to keep you guys too long because I am flat out exhausted, and I got a lot going on over the coming week to get ready for vacation and whatnot and work issues. So I need to be resting. Tonight's beverage of choice, not a sponsor yet, is Elysian, if I can hold it right. There we go. Elysian Super Fuzz. This is a blood orange IPA, and it is absolutely delicious. I should have it in a glass, but I was too lazy and I didn't pick up the glass. So right now we're just going to have a bottle. Okay, and for anybody that's in here watching, I would greatly appreciate it if you were to hit the little share button on this feed, you know, so it'll go out to Twitter, Facebook, and all of that, just to let people know that I'm going live, and I appreciate you sharing it out. As a matter of fact, I'm going to hit the share button right now before we get rolling, and then we'll jump in. Okay, send that on out the door. Then hop on over here to Twitter. And maybe log in. Well, it might help if I put the right password. Dang, I don't know my Twitter password now. Can we figure that out? Yikes, Pruitt. Come on, man. Get it together. Rats. There it is. Got it. Okay, I've shared it out to all the social media folks, and now we can officially get started. So let me show you my screen here. Excuse me. Let's click this button over here to show my screen. Okay, we could close that. All right, so on my screen, this is Adobe Stock. So if you go to stock.adobe.com, it will take you to the Adobe Stock website, where you can pick up stock images that you can use for your website, that you can use for marketing campaigns, things like that. Just whatever you have from a creative standpoint, a project that you're working on. Adobe Stock, and there are other stock sites out there that will allow you to go in and grab different types of assets that you can use royalty free. You got to pay for them, but you can use them royalty free for whatever you need to do. And by royalty free, you don't have to worry about somebody coming back trying to sue you and say, hey, that's my image. You can't use my image. I'm going to sue you. None of that's going to happen when you use a service like Adobe Stock or Shutterstock or iStock Photo or what have you. I particularly use Adobe Stock and Shutterstock for my stock images. I've used other sites like I've used Fope. I think I've used iStock Photo as well. There's a bunch of them out there. It's a ton of different options out there, and excuse me, it makes it a little difficult at times because there's so many different services out there, and because there's so many different people submitting their stock work. It's a pretty tough gig, but you can work around all of those obstacles and get your images picked up by somebody, whether it be a local artist trying to do something for an ad or a blogger or what have you. Just there are ways that you can work around it. And also, I want to go ahead and mention, just to get this on the record, I am what you call an Adobe authorized affiliate. So if you were to go to my website, well, maybe if I do this, it'll work. Let's try this again. Yeah, see, I'm an Adobe authorized affiliate, and I want to get that out of the way. So I have affiliate links with regards to things like the Adobe Creative Cloud and Adobe Stock. If you were to look in the link of this video, you will actually see some affiliate links to get 10 free images when you sign up for Adobe Stock using my affiliate link. What happens is I'll get a tiny commission for people that sign up. But yeah, I just want to put that out there and just be transparent with it. But anyway, stock photography, stock video. If you look back at my particular gallery here, you will notice that these images are, I can't say that they're like, wow, eye-popping stuff, but there are pretty nice images in here. And you'll also see some video files in here. Okay. And when you're dealing with this stuff, you have to sort of think about what are people looking for nowadays. When you're doing stock photography, it pays to be able to stay on what's the hot topic going on in the news right now, or what's the theme going on in society right now. For example, we here in the US of A just celebrated Independence Day, July 4th. July 4th is synonymous with fireworks and barbecuing. So right here, if somebody wanted a nice stock image for barbecuing, I got you covered. This was just a shot of my grill with meat cooking. I went through and did some processing on it and tried to make it look nice and pretty, but that's what I went with. Something else right here, this is just cooking, barbecuing and grilling meat. And but that's the way to go about it, is try to think of the different themes that is going on in today's news, or the hot topic, or what have you, or just something that if someone was wanting to work on a particular project and they put in keywords and search items, figure out what those search items would be, and then try to base your photography or video around those search items. Okay. So I have shot a ton of stock footage over the last couple of weeks. I do this pretty regularly. I try to shoot something every day, and I don't care how mundane or how average or random it is. A lot of times that stuff can be done with stock, with the stock gallery. For example, one of my top selling images here for stock gallery, for stock footage, stock photos, is this image right here. And this is, I wasn't even at home with this. I was out at a Colombian restaurant. I shot this image with my cell phone. I did a little bit of the processing. I believe I did all of the processing on my cell phone. And then I just uploaded it to Adobe Stock. And this thing, I sell a couple copies of it every week. It's just totally random, but it works because people are out there looking for food photography, and this happens to pop up in their search, and I get a credit for it. Okay. And the beauty about this one is I don't really think it's that great of an image, especially when I look and see that the coffee mug back there is sort of cut off. Don't like that, but it works. So just keep that in mind with your stock images. No, you're not going to make a ton of money to start out. The people that make a ton of money doing stock images and stock video, that is all they do 25 hours a day. Yeah, I said 25 because you have to work at it that much. You have to constantly be shooting. You have to constantly be editing and constantly uploading. You know, I may have 100 images right here, or 100 different assets right here. That's nothing compared to the people that are making, $30,000 a year on stock images. They have thousands of different assets in there. So keep that stuff in mind. Don't think you're going to get rich quick doing stock photography and stock video. You can make a lot of money, but it takes a ton of work. Okay, so what we're going to do now is go ahead and open up Lightroom, and we'll scroll through some of my files here that I wanted to work on for stock photography, and just get to work on processing and sending it on up to the cloud. Do you have any questions, chat room? All right. So if you do, just ask them there, and I'll try to answer them as best I can. Okay. So let's go ahead and do this screen here. That should be showing you my screen. Okay, it is. All right. There's a couple that I've been wanting to work on in particular. This image here at the top, I was traveling. I believe I was in Virginia when I shot this. But this is just a random scene that you see every weekend with people out at the bar having wanting to have a drink. The only thing I don't like about this image is there's nothing in the glass, and I think it would have a little more weight to it if it had something in the glass. I like the shot, but I don't. Now that I look at it again, I probably won't even process it. Okay, so let's skip that one for now. Okay, so let's scroll through. What else is over here? Well, we can look at this one. Another image of mine that sells all the time would be anything that's pretty much alcohol related. So I'm gonna bring this back over here. This image sells all the time. This little whiskey image. I was at the bar, took a photo with my phone. That's my drink, and that's the person next to me. It worked. Okay. That image sells a lot. This image sells a lot. You know, it's another bar scene, if you will. I put a little more processing time in it, but this was also shot with my smartphone. It sells. And this one down here, where'd it go? It's one more that I want to show off. It's probably my favorite, and it gets a lot of love. This one. This is probably my favorite image of all time. I don't know. It's pretty close to the top of the list, but it sells all the time because it's just a typical bar gentleman's theme, alcoholic scene kind of thing, and people just dig it. So that's the kind of thinking that goes into my shots. And nowadays, because of my alcohol related images selling so often, I am beginning to focus myself on trying to shoot more things related to alcohol, such as this scene here. You know, I went out to the river near my house, and I was thinking about all of the different ads that I've seen regarding whiskey, and especially Scotch in particular. And you always hear about the water with regarding Scotch whiskey. So I wanted to make sure that I do some type of scene with the whiskey and water and nature around it. So right here, this is just a test shot, trying to line up and get my focus and things like that. And then later on, you'll see where I actually, yeah, see, that's still just more testing. Okay. Yeah, I tested out quite a bit, apparently. Yeah, I tested a lot. Sorry. Well, but that's how you do it. You got to figure out what's going to work. And at the time, I didn't have any fake whiskey available. You could usually make up some type of liquid mixture to make it look like whiskey, but I didn't have time this particular day. I really needed to get out there before the storms came. And so I ended up starting with the scene like this. Zoomed in fairly tight. Look like I'm zoomed in at about 90 something millimeters, according to the histogram here. And I like the idea behind this one because it's got the Glencairn glass, which is synonymous with whiskey or Scotch whiskey in general. You got the earth with the stones right here, and you got the running water in the background from the river. So I like the tight shot. I've already published another shot that's not quite as tight, which was this one. This is the one that I've recently processed. Now you notice it's not as tight, but it works. I think it works. So I'm going to do the same thing with something that's a little tighter or maybe a little more centered. Okay. So let's take a look at a different angle like this one here. So that's tighter and it's a different angle. And you got this little, looks like a little dragonfly right there. I didn't notice that there. So I'm going to mark this one as wanted to come back and take a look-see. That's a little overexposed, overexposed, overexposed. You know, all of these over here are not too bad. Part of me wishes the little dragonfly right here in the scene was a little more visible, because now it's a little distracting in comparison to this one. Yeah, then again, that might be a little distracting too. So maybe I have to Photoshop the dragonfly out. But this is the thought process. That's too wide, so we want to go back to tighter. Okay. Yeah, well, let's work with these here. Let's work with these. We'll start with this one, because it's a little overexposed, but I could save it. I think I could save it because I shot it raw. I always shoot raw about 98% of the time. So, you guys see my screen okay? Hope so. Okay, first things first. I always want to dehaze. First step, always when I edit. So I'm going to hit the dehaze option. Push it down some. I think that works a little bit. And you notice as I do the dehaze, it starts to fix the exposure a little better. It's not overexposed as much. All right. Now, with the adoption of color profiles inside of Adobe Lightroom, I'm going to take a look at a few different options here. And these color profiles are about like lookup tables or filters. So I'll flip through a couple just to see what they look like. Landscape has really been nice recently because you notice it gives a little punch to the color. All right, so far landscape is in the lead. Let's scroll down a little more and we'll look at some of these artistic ones. The artistic ones can be fun as well. It's a little too purple there, a little too magenta there. I like the Arctic because it looks a lot cooler on the temperature, and with whiskey, Scotch whiskey in particular, it seems to be synonymous with a lot of cool water, you know. So we may even try that artistic profile. Artistic 4. You know what? Let's just do that. Let's just go with that. We'll go ahead and hop in. And if I want, I can intensify this filter up here on the upper right by pulling that up more. See, it really got blue that time. But I'm going to take it all the way back down, and that looks like nothing is applied. So now let's just take it back up to about 50. Something like that. So now we have more of a blue color temperature to it, cooler temperature. So we'll close that, and let's go ahead and start with the processing. From a composition standpoint, I want to make sure everything is nice and straight. Looks like the pour is a little off center here. It's not really balanced out. Didn't mean to do that. I'm gonna rotate it like gotta be careful. Yeah, it's gonna be off a little bit, I guess, because that rock leans some. If anything, let's make sure that the lip of the glass is straight, you know. So let's reset it first of all. We'll reset it. We'll get all of our pixels back. Get all our pixels back. Get them all back. Okay, now let's rotate it. And we'll just use these guidelines over here. Get it lined up nice and straight. So we got that. But can I get a little bit tighter? So let's crop a little bit more. Let's crop a little bit more. Part of me likes having this texture down here, so I don't want to cut too much of that off. And then I also like having it on the bias as far as the subject being off center. Sometimes, you know, centering your subject is great. Sometimes having it off center works pretty nicely too. Okay. So far, so good. All right, so let's take a look at our exposure. We'll just start going down this little menu here as we do our processing. Take the exposure up just a touch, a little contrast to break up the colors. Bring down the highlights some. This one doesn't look like it's going to need too much processing. If anything, it will need some sharpening and some noise reduction, but everything looks fairly nice right out the camera. Yeah, see, I don't want to take the blacks down too far. Normally I take the black levels down fairly low to break up the colors even more, but by doing that this time, you notice the whiskey gets really dark with those shadows, and I don't like that at all. So we'll bring those back up. Take it up a little more. Okay. Back to the contrast. Okay. I think we're good as far as that goes. So now let's take a look at the clarity here. I won't do too much clarity at this time because we'll have to work on sharpening in a later step. So yeah, I'll just do about 13 for now. The vibrance, fill in that color a little more, not too much. Make those colors pop, baby. Okay, not bad. Luminance, let's look at the green, because if you look up here in the upper portion, the upper fifth of the screen, it's a little noisy when it comes to the green. Sometimes increasing the luminance fixes that noise. Yeah, not this time. We're gonna have to really get rid of that noise. So let's scroll down and look at our noise right here. You see it zoomed in and you got all of those little artifacts on the screen. And if I zoom in on the image, you'll see all of the artifacts in that green in the dark areas. And that's probably because I shot at a high ISO. Yeah, I shot at about 800 ISO. Normally that is okay, but you really need to make sure you're shooting a faster shutter speed than 1/25th of a second. Maybe at about 200th of a second, you'll be a lot better. Okay, so let's get rid of this noise in the image by going down to our noise reduction settings. Just pushing that up. And it is slowly going away. All right, so that looks better. It doesn't look as sharp, but it doesn't look noisy either. So we can try to sharpen it a little bit, even though my sharpening is not necessarily done in Lightroom. Let's do it this way. Yeah, leave that be. We'll do our sharpening in Photoshop. Okay. And if I want, I can enable this lens profile. That particularly controls the bowing on the screen and vignetting. Most of the time I don't have to worry about it too much, but just in case. Yeah, see, that bowed it just a little bit and it looks fine. All right, vignetting, I'll do that at the very end. So that's it. We're good for this for now. If you've been watching previous live streams, you know that I like to take my images from Lightroom and do like a rough touch up just to go through, make sure the color looks okay and exposure is okay, and maybe tweak the noise and sharpness, but not too much. And then I hop into Photoshop, and I like to go ahead and do all of the extra detailed sharpening over there. And if I have to do any type of object removals or stuff like that, such as that little dragonfly we see, I get rid of it over there inside of Photoshop. Okay, so let's go ahead and hop into Photoshop with this image. So we'll just right click, say edit in Photoshop, and because of the dynamic link, it'll pop right in there. I can close that thumbnail. We don't need that anymore. Nope. All right, so we got this ready to go for further processing. Any questions, chat room? Y'all have been quiet over there. All right. So let's first start by, I normally like to enlarge the image. I don't think I have to this time. I'm just going to leave it as is. So let's go on up to our actions menu over here in the upper right. And I have an action setup, which is essentially a macro that will go through all of these steps right here, which will help go ahead and be a quick way to sharpen this image up. Okay, so here we go. We're just going to hit this play button, and it's going to start adding layers and all of that and smart objects and get rolling, hopefully. See, it's thinking, doing its thing. Boom, boom, boom. There it is, done. Okay, so now that's definitely sharper, but it's a little too sharp. So we'll just hop in here and just scale back on some of the sharpness, because I like to use the high pass filter. And then if I have to, I'll use the camera raw filter. But right now this looks like it may work if I just dial everything back just a touch. Yeah, this looks pretty good. That was quick. Cool. All right, so now let's go ahead and dive into getting rid of this little dragonfly on the screen here. I liked it originally, but now it's a little bit of a nuisance, if you will. So let's take all of these extra layers over here and just pull them together in that group. And then I'm going to right click on this and I'll say merge the group, and we're good to go. Okay. And I have a copy. Well, I don't have a copy. I need to make a copy of this so I'm editing non-destructively. So I can just do Control J on my keyboard or Command J if you're on an Apple machine, and that makes a copy. So now everything that I'm going to do as far as the object removal, I'm doing it on this layer right here. And if I screw it up, I always have a backup right there on this layer. Okay. So let's go ahead and do some object removal. So we're going to zoom in on this so we can get a great view of this bad boy. And I'm going to press L on my keyboard, which opens up the lasso tool. And I will just draw around this, making a selection. And I'm doing this really rough because I'm using a mouse instead of my Wacom. Okay. And now I'll go up to the edit menu. I'll select fill. And then I'll select content aware fill. And that should fill it in using the computational photo editing to make it go away. And it did a decent job, not great. So let's do that again. Edit, fill, content aware. A little bit better. Well, look at here. Somebody's calling me on my telly. We're going to hit OK. Hey.
Are you recording?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
All right. I'll call you back.
Okay.
All right. Bye.
Sorry, people. I'm just doing my check-in. I forgot what time it was and what day it was.
Yeah.
But
All right, I'll call you back.
Okay.
Bye. All right. So there you have it, folks. This is live. There's no editing. It is a true live stream. Okay. So back to our screen. It still didn't do a very good job here using the content aware fill. So now I'm going to hit J on my keyboard and hop on over here to this patch tool and see if we can make it look more like the water using the patch tool just by doing this right here. Yeah, that looks a little bit better. We'll do the same thing for that spot right there, like that. Okay, and now I'll zoom out. If I zoom out, I probably won't even notice that little bit of an imperfection. Yeah, I do. Let's zoom back in. We will fix that. That little imperfection around here, I don't like that. Let's get rid of that. Patch tool. Drag it that way so it looks right. There we go. Let's get rid of that little artifact there. Drag that a little better. Much better. Okay, so let's zoom out. Okay, I think that works a lot better. What you think? All right, so if I want to get a little more crafty, I can add a gradient over the top of this to give it a little more color pop. So let's do a new layer on the bottom right hand corner of my screen there. Click that new layer. And then I'm going to select G on my keyboard for gradient. And up here in the upper right, you'll see a little gradient tool pops up. If I double click that or just single click it, this allows me to play with colors that I can add to this image as an overlay, if you will. And it also allows me to play with the different types of gradients. This looks like it has transparency on the end. I don't necessarily want to do that. I typically like to use two colors. So let's try this one here. Now, granted, this is in black and white, so it's probably going to look really bad when I do that. But just for the kicks and giggles, we'll go ahead and hit OK and let you see what a black and white gradient would look like on the screen. So to use a gradient tool, you hit G on your keyboard and then you just drag on the screen however you see fit. And there you go. I have a gradient on the screen. The problem is I didn't change the blend mode of the layers. So I need to go back over here and change the blend mode so the layers will look right. So you go over here to the right hand side, change that blend mode, use soft light. Okay, so that makes it a little bit more visible, you think. And doing it in black and white, you don't get much of a difference. Okay. Doing it that way, that basically just put a highlight over on the glass. I want to give it a little more, make it a little more dynamic than that. So let's get rid of that. Let's delete that layer, and I'm going to add another layer, start over again. We got G for our gradient. Open this up. And let's change the color. Let's start with something. I like to do the blues and orange. So we'll do a dark blue like that. Click OK. And on the other end of it, we'll do an orange. Or maybe even a blue and green. Let's try blue and green. Just sort of random. Or if I feel like it, I can just use the eyedropper tool and just click on green like right there. And then hit OK. Hit OK again. And now we'll change our blend mode. Make it soft light. And then let's just go ahead and drag it across the screen. That made it a little too dark. So let's undo that. Let's drag it up the screen. Still really dark. Okay, now if I want, I can keep it dark like that and just go over here to the opacity. Bring the opacity down a little bit. Yeah, I don't know if I like that. Nope, I don't like that. So trial and error, that layer didn't work. I'll just go back to my original plan of blues and orange. Give me a nice orangey color. Like that. Soft light. Drag it across. That's fair. Still ain't great. Nope. Looks like we won't be doing any gradients tonight because nothing is really looking all that great in my opinion, regardless of what I try. And that's okay. It happens. Okay, so I'll just get rid of that. We'll go ahead and save this image and get right back into Lightroom to finish up. Delete layer. Yes, there. All right, so it's sharp enough. You know what? Yeah, go ahead and hit save. Okay, now that it's saving, we can close it and hop back over into Lightroom, and you see we have our fresh new sharpened image, and it looks a lot better. I still see a little bit of noise over here in the upper right corner, but we can get rid of that fairly easily with our Wacom tablet. And so now the fun begins. Scroll down here in the bottom, again remove the chromatic aberration if it's there. Push that noise reduction up a little more, like so. Smooth that out. Okay, so now we're going to really dig into some more of the texture here on the stone. So I'm going to press this adjustment brush up here in the upper right, or K on my keyboard. And for the brush type, I'm going to select clarity. Okay. So now that that's done, I'm going to put the mouse down. I'm going to grab my Wacom tablet and my stylus, and I'm going to brush on the screen where I want that extra clarity to show up on that stone. Okay. So we got our brush here. Make a plotter. Just sit the. That is a really big brush. There we go. We'll drop a plotter down right there. Let me turn my music down some. Sorry. And now we're just going to brush. Just going to brush this stone here, just to bring out a little more detail and texture on that stone. Something like that. We probably could reduce the highlights on it too. So let's go ahead and just drag the highlights down like that. Okay. Maybe take the exposure down just a little bit. Nah, don't take the exposure down, so we lose it. So let's take the whites down. Nope. Just take the highlights just a little bit, not too much. Okay. Dehaze it a little bit. See if we can really bring out that texture. Yep, that's about as good as it's going to get. Take the sharpness. There. Brush on it a little more. There we go. See, now that texture is really starting to come out. I like that. Hey, that's Calvin Henderson in the house. Holy crap. man, where you been, brother? I ain't seen you in wow, man. Thanks for popping in. It's good to see you. It's good to see you, Calvin. Thank you, brother. All right, let's get back over here. I'm gonna take these highlights down just a little more. It's hard finding that happy medium on these highlights. Okay. Yeah, but now it's peaking. Okay. All right, I'll just leave it be right there. Okay, and then I'm going to do another brush for clarity. And I want to brush onto the glass just to make it stand out a little bit more. So I'm just going to brush around the glass, because the glass has some detail on it with the little splashes of whiskey and water that was splashing up from the river. So just bring those details out a little bit more, which will also help with that bokeh effect, giving that shallow depth of field in the background there. So I think that works pretty good. All right, so that brush is done. And then we'll do one more brush. So we'll just click new over here in the upper right. And we're going to say noise. And we're going to crank the noise level, which is noise reduction. Crank it all the way up. Take the sharpness down. Take the clarity down. And bring the defringing up. Okay. And we're going to hit this background again. So I'm just going to put a pin there. And I'm just going to brush over this background to really get it smoothed out and get rid of any little artifacts of noise and grain showing back there. Well, I don't want to get too much. Looks like I got too much. So I need to do my eraser. So let's erase some of this. Let's erase some of this. The water was okay for the most part. But back there in the woods, that wasn't looking so hot. So we'll brush through there. I'll put a little bit of the sharpness back, just a little bit. Okay. All right, so that looks a little bit better. Yeah, that's okay. So we didn't want to make it too fuzzy. Not too fuzzy. All right, so we'll turn that off. We'll take a pixel peep. Still a little bit of noise right there in the middle. It's not terrible though, so I'm going to let it slide. Yeah, I probably should still brush some on that water, but I won't use a stronger brush. So I'm going to go back to the water with another brush, hit new. We'll go down to noise like that. We'll keep the sharpness and clarity as is, and we'll put a defringe on it. So we'll brush this water out. So that should smooth out any of the artifacts in the water. Ooh, man, I'm tired. It's hitting me. Okay. Had to get a sip of beer. Let's brush that out. Okay. I think that works. I do want to try something here. I want to take the highlights down on that water just a little bit. See what happens. because it was starting to hurt my eyes just a little bit. So I figure if it's hurting my eyes, it's probably hurting everybody else's eyes. A little too bright on the highlights. I like it. I like it a lot. Yep. I think we got a winner, folks. We'll do one last thing with making sure our vignettes applied, and we'll also take a look at our camera calibration settings and give it that good old classic orange and teal look. Makes it look a little more cinematic and natural. So we'll adjust the red channel, push it towards the orange, and then we'll adjust the blue channel to push it towards the teal ever so gently. And you'll notice the image will start to cool off a little more, and then you'll see the little bits of orange start to pop up a little more. Just got to be careful. You don't want to overdo it. So I'm push it up just a touch. Yeah, that works. That works quite nicely. All right. And now we'll do our vignetting right here. I always like to take it all the way to the extreme just to see how bad it is, and then I will work my way to a happy medium to see what works best. See, that makes it a little too dark. Maybe right about there. There we go. About -15 on the vignette. That works. Cool. So this image, folks, that image is done. It's done, good to go. Took me a while to shoot it out there, but the processing took me less than an hour, so that's good stuff. But now the key thing about it is once you go through all of your editing and so forth, get these images up to the stock providers, the stock gallery folks, the Shutterstocks, the iStock Photo, the Adobe Stock, or whomever. As I said earlier, I'm an authorized Adobe affiliate, so I tend to stick with Adobe Stock first and foremost, because that's my images sell over there a lot faster than they do on Shutterfly and or Shutterstock and iStock Photo. I still use those two, but I always sort of lean more towards Adobe Stock. So with that said, Lightroom has all of that built in, and it will allow you to just go ahead and upload directly from Lightroom into Adobe Stock. Actually, hold on, go back. I need to mark it. I always like to mark it green, so I know it's good to go and done from my editing standpoint. Okay, so now it's marked green. See how it's green right here on the screen? Okay. You can just drag it over to the stock uploader, or if you want, you can right click and say create a virtual copy. Sometimes I do that. It sort of depends. Where'd it go? Or maybe it's over here at the photo. Whoops. I'm struggling with the mouse today. There. Photo. You can do create virtual copy. I'm not going to do that right now. I'm just going to drag it straight on over here to the left of the screen where it says Adobe Stock. Just drag and drop, and it's there. And if I want, I can also upload it to Facebook, which I will not be doing. But I also like to put my stuff up on Flickr as an additional backup source, because Flickr gives you a ton of cloud space for nothing. So I try to utilize that as well. So I'll drag this over there like that and there. But you're not done. You have to right click on it and say publish. And as you do that, you'll see up here in the upper left, it's pushing it up to Adobe Stock. And in this instance, it's pushing it over to Flickr. because you have to set up the app to work with those online services, which is nothing more than just hitting I authorize and logging in. Once it's successfully uploaded to Adobe Stock, you get this little pop-up here, and you can say, yeah, I'm ready to go in and start selling, or just hit no. I'm going to hit no on that for now. What happens is, whoops, cancel, wrong button. What the heck happened? Did y'all see my screen? There we are. Anyway. What happens when you tell it, yes, I'm ready to start selling, is it takes you to your Adobe Stock profile page, and it allows you to go ahead and put in the metadata for your image. You have to give it a title, and you put in your tags. They tell you to use at least 5 really good tags, at least 5, but you can use up to like probably about 40 or so tags. I put in somewhere around 20 or so. I try to anyway. For this particular photo, tag would definitely be whiskey, and that's whiskey spelled with an E and whiskey spelled with a Y. It would be alcohol. I would say cocktail. I would say beverage. I would say weekend. I would say bar. I would put in nature. I would put in water. I'd put in refreshing. I'd put in bourbon. I'd put in scotch. That's the way you have to think about this, is because when people are looking for stock images and stock assets, they're searching for those terms. So when you're tagging them, use those tags as a way to get to those search terms. And I promise you, it'll push you up in the results. And another thing about Adobe Stock and some of these other services, I think you're better off the more you upload. If you upload on a more consistent basis, algorithms will like you. I found that the times that I wasn't really uploading and just sort of let stuff sit there, nothing would happen those weeks. But when I'm uploading something, 7 to 10 times a week or what have you, they pop up. I get that little email one morning, hey, your file has been received and approved. And then I get another email later on in that week, hey, this file sold, and you made $1 on it, or you made $5. It depends on the service on far as how much money you make. Sometimes it pisses me off because I'll only make a quarter on an image. But yeah, that's the nature of stock photography. You're only going to get pennies on the dollar at times. Sometimes you get a couple dollars. It just depends on the people that are downloading the images. It depends on what type of package they have with the stock provider. Do they get 10 free images a month, and they only pay X amount of dollars. So you're only going to get so much in commission. If they're only paying $10 a month to Adobe is not going to give me half of that. I'm pretty sure of that. They only going to give you 1% or something low like that, but that's all part of the game. It's literally like hitting the lottery sometimes. An image may go viral and everybody will want to download it. Or it could lead to, some other recognition, and people will want to try to get access to your library without going through Adobe Stock. And then you can really name your price, if you will. It's a game. It's a challenging game, but I enjoy it. I enjoy it. I've been doing this Adobe Stock for maybe 2 years now. I'm not sure. It's been a little while, and it's nice that I can just get passive income. Some months are a lot better than others, and it's okay. But I'll wake up in the morning and I'll have my my morning emails to check, and there'll be an email in there that said this image sold, that image sold, or whatever, and it's just adding up. I didn't do anything else. I shot the image, edited the image, pushed it up, and I walked away. And then months later, that image might just start selling like hotcakes. The whiskey shot that I showed you a little while ago, that one I know that's at least 2 years old. and it still brings in passive money. So that's my tips regarding stock assets. Do the same thing when it comes to stock video. Just have a thought process on, you know, what's being searched for, what's the hot items and things like that. Do your research and just start uploading, or shoot random stuff, because sometimes random things have a place in marketing and in topical stuff. Yeah, like I said earlier, the plate of Colombian food, for whatever reason, it's not even a great image, but it's one of my top sellers. You know, I got this shot of people walking on the beach. It's their feet walking on the beach in the water. That image has sold a bunch of times. Dogs. People love dog images. Notice the color and the processing on them. Notice the way I actually have this dog off-centered. You know, all of that was on purpose. Scenes of nature. This image. This is my hand at an ATM. You know, and I had to be pretty clear about it, because you don't want to necessarily have copyrighted images inside of your image. You know, no logos or things like that. You don't want any faces in it. But yeah, I shot this and I cropped it down, stuck my finger in the frame, and I've made a couple bucks off of this thing. You know, and it's just because people still go to the ATM from time to time. You know what I'm saying? All right, I'm gonna get ready to get out of here. You folks have any questions in the chat room? And I know there's a little bit of a delay. This image has sold a lot. Just a random bowl of ice cream. Me and the family went over to Baskin Robbins or whatever the ice cream shop is here, and I just thought the ice cream looked good. So I walked out with my Pixel or whatever smartphone I had at the time, held it like that, shot the image, boom, put it up there. It still sells because it says summertime, it says fun, it says food, it says sweets. It just fits a bunch of different categories. All right, I don't see any questions popping up, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. I want to say thank you to everybody that did pop in on this Friday evening. I appreciate all of the support. If you have any other questions, feel free to leave a comment on the video and ask your questions, or just tag me on social media. I have all of my social media connections in the description of this video, as well as any of my affiliate links that may be of interest to you, such as the equipment that I use, as well as my Patreon and the Adobe Stock affiliate link that I have in there that lets you get 10 free images for your next project, or 10 free assets for your next project. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, I would appreciate it if you click the share button on it and let everybody know that you watched it and enjoyed it, and leave me your comments about how much you loved it, or leave your comments about what you didn't like about it. That stuff is very helpful. It is Friday night. I hope you folks are geared up for a nice weekend, this holiday week that we just had here in the US. But be sure to spend some time with your loved ones. Be sure to spend some time, you know, just hanging out with yourself and getting your mind right, and collecting your thoughts and getting those creative juices firing. And most importantly, get yourself out there with your camera, smartphone, whatever it is. Get out there and shoot. You know what I'm saying? So let's have a good weekend. Get to it, create, and dominate. Thank y'all for watching.